So good morning. How are you? Okay. Just a little checkup. Do you want to be here? Yes? Why? Inspiration. So what could inspire you? A good talk of an experienced event organizer. Well, I happen to know one. Okay. Here are people who said they know that their bodies are here, and then I asked why, but it was silent. Why are you here? Harmony. Okay, harmony. Other reasons to be here? Connections. Okay, cool. So I used to run this consultancy business where people would drag their bodies to meetings, and every now and then you could stop the meeting and you could ask people, do you know why you're here? And they just wouldn't know why their body was in that specific room. And still, this is what we tend to do, even if it comes to business events, over and over again. We drag our bodies into big rooms, not knowing what to expect, and we always say, well, we hope to be inspired. Do you know the meaning of the word inspiration? If I ask close questions, you can nod or shake your head. I know it's a bit scary to talk to me, I'm a human being, we can talk and interact, but do you know the meaning of the word inspiration? It's to breathe in soul. It's to give something soul. So if you're looking for inspiration, first check with yourself, did you bring your soul along into this room? And if not, maybe you might want to go back on the journey and find out where you left it. Because in these harsh times and in these rush times, people tend to send their bodies off, but they leave their soul behind. And this is the utter meaning of disconnection. So take some time for yourself and ask whether or not your entire body and your soul is here. This is what we need to create connection. Okay. Now the second thing is that, so I'm this like 52-year-old father, I'm married to Minne for 70 years already, and I love her. I have two kids, Mats and Pijke. They're 11 and 13, and the most beautiful moments from the recent 30 years of my life is watching my kids grow up, being home for dinner, having time to send them off to school. And still I struggle with my time. Do you recognize struggling with your time because it tends to slip through your hands? Yeah? Okay, so I think one of the most precious things every audience gives to someone who organizes an event is their time and their attention. Because you just don't want to waste your time. It's the last thing you will run out of at the end of your life. There's no gravestone saying, I wish I'd had more money. There are gravestones saying, I wish I'd had more time. And yesterday, who was at the event yesterday evening where they had this wish tree? Only 5 of you know, you're lying. You were there, I see you, because we've been in the past. You were at the event yesterday evening, Michelle, so go and stick out your head. So, did you check that tree where you could put your wishes in? You did? Did you see the messages that were written in the tree? What were they about? Family, friends, love and health. That's what was written down. There was only one card saying, I need more money. So if the guy or the girl who wrote that down, please stand up, you can all donate, and then we make your wish come true. So it seems that the things we value, that we think of our importance, are like family, friends, small connections, small moments, and more time. Now, if I look at the events, I'm from the Netherlands, they tend to do the opposite. They tend to rush people, they tend to send information instead of talk about information, and they tend to aim for the biggest audience. There's something strange going on there, don't you think? Because, well, maybe you've seen those detective-like movies, and they say if you want to go unnoticed, blend into the crowd. So the bigger the crowd, the more unnoticed the individual will be. That's the contrary. Because over here we say, well, personal connections. So how does this rhyme with bigger crowds? We want personal connections. So how does this rhyme with speeding up and filling up the program? I think it's time to slow down. Create small moments of true connection, and this might just be the stardust that the event industry needs at this very moment. And I will give you 2 examples of that. So, a couple of years ago, I gave a lecture on experience design. So for people who don't know my profession, I hardly know it myself, I find it very hard to explain. Has any one of you ever played an escape room? You know where they lock you up and you have 1 hour to get out? So I started off building escape rooms. Well, in escape rooms, magic happens because 3 components come together. You have a clear goal, get out of the room. You have a beautiful story, and you can interact with the story through puzzles or touch points. So these 3 stones build up experiences. Now, I gave a lecture on this a couple of years ago, somewhere in the Netherlands, and a week or 2 later, I got an email from a guy. He was like 55, his name was Robert, and he said, "Listen, Nils, I don't know if this is your job, but I have a question for you. My daughter, Talia, is turning 16 within 1 month. And I want her to have the best birthday ever. I want her to have an unforgettable birthday. I'm not sure if it's your job, I'm not sure if this is the thing that you do, but will you help me?" And I found it such a heartfelt question that I reached out and we met and I said, "Okay, I'll help you create an unforgettable birthday for your daughter." And I'll just show you what happens then. There's no slides here. There's no PowerPoint slide deck that I can send you afterwards where you will have all the notes. If you want to remember something, I hope you do it yourself. Yeah? Okay, because I tend to know that hardly anyone reads those slides anyway. So here's a couple of secrets. Do you have someone you love that you think you want to create an unforgettable experience for? Just close your eyes. Who would you do that for? Your partner, for instance. Your child, maybe your parents. So what you want to do is you want to dive into what motivates or moves the person that's going to be in the experience. And we always tend to look for the meaning of somebody's name. Now, the daughter of Robert was called Talia. And if you dive into the meaning of the name Talia, you'll end up in Greek mythology. And you'll find out that Zeus, the upper god, had 3 daughters, and one of the daughters was called Talia. And her job was to take care of the rising of happiness. So we had this mythological story that we could use for our experience. Now the real Talia, so that girl of 15 years, she went to school in Nijmegen. That's a very small town compared to Istanbul for certain, in the Netherlands. She went to school and she has a history class. And at the end of the history class, upon leaving home, her teacher calls her. And he says, "Talia, it's your birthday next week, isn't it?" "Yeah, it's my birthday, I'm so excited." "Okay, this is Talia. I read this ancient history magazine. And for some reason, this year, in this episode, there was an article about the 3 graces, the 3 daughters of Zeus. And it's about this historical figure that has the same name as you, Talia, and about the 10 coins of happiness. So supposedly, the old Greek Talia used to have coins of happiness that she could hand out to people, giving them a bit more happiness. But for some reason, the coins got lost. And this is the myth of Talia, and it's written down in this book over here. So he said, "Since it's your birthday, I thought I might as well hand you this magazine, just take it home and see it as a birthday present." So Talia goes home, says, "Daddy, look, I got this magazine, and there's the history of the 10 coins of happiness that are lost." Now, of course, Daddy and I knew about this magazine because we made it. So Daddy says, "Why not take a picture of the magazine, send it to your grandmother because she loves these old stories." So Talia does. So the next day, Grandma comes to visit and she said, "Oh Talia, I just loved the article about the 10 coins of happiness, but something amazing happened. Because in the article there was a picture of a book. Now your old grandfather who passed away used to go to these old markets and buy second-hand books. And when I saw the picture of that book, I thought, I recognize that book. So I went to the basement And look what I found, Talia. The book in the magazine was actually in the basement of our house. That must be a sign. So she handed the book to Talia. And upon opening the book, something amazing happens. Because an old paper letter dropped out. And this is the letter from the old Greek goddess Thalia, reaching out to this 15-year-old coin, calling for her help to retrieve the 10 coins of happiness. So from that moment on, Thalia, who's 15 years old, is on a mission. She has to find the 10 coins of happiness, because they are supposedly in Nijmegen somewhere. So that night, she and the father go out to this old Roman graveyard in the city center of Nijmegen, and this is where she finds the 3 first coins of happiness. So what happens here is that a story becomes an adventure. Thalia, who used to read and listen, now has to go out and interact with the story. This is where she found the first 3 coins of happiness. Now the next day, she comes to school. And in school, in the locker of her, where she puts her belongings, she finds one piece of a puzzle with her name engraved on it. And a small letter saying, Thalia, you're almost there, but you need 9 more coins. So you're going to have to go out, because there's more pieces of puzzle splattered around the city. You have to go to a specific park. And that afternoon, she entered this park, and she saw this sort of mysterious figure dived away in a hoodie, and she had to tap her shoulder. And it appeared to be one of her best friends, who also found a piece of that puzzle in her locker. And now they're on a quest together. And this is where they found the next 3 coins of happiness. So a couple more to go. Then she received a letter saying, you have to go to this specific cafe in Nijmegen Square, and upon going to pay, you don't have to pay, you just have to tell them your name is Thalia. So up with her friends, she goes to that cafe, a bit shy as she is, and she says, hi, my name is Thalia. And then the girl behind the counter says, Thalia, we've been waiting for you for years. We're so glad you're here. It's your birthday, isn't it? Yes, it's almost my birthday. We know it's almost your birthday. Therefore, we brought you cake, we brought you lemonade. Please have a seat at the table, stare out over the square, and enjoy this afternoon. So for the first time in her life, only by giving her name, she gets rewarded with cakes and lemonade and everything. So for her, this is heaven. And there she gets the last message, which is to enter this old city park where you have the playground for children. I just became a father myself, and I thought the playground must be in this adventure, because on the playground you see true happiness grow. And there she found the last 3 coins of happiness. With yet another thing, another mission. There's this old medieval tower in that same park. And she had to tap the door 3 times, and the door would open up. So she went up there, she tapped the door 3 times, and upon opening the door, she had to walk up these concrete stairs, which were candle lit all over. And when she arrived at the top of the tower, opening the last door, this is where she found her friends and family celebrating her 16th birthday. This is a birthday she will not forget. I still have contact with her. She does not forget this birthday. Because what happened is, the desire of her father to give her an unforgettable birthday turned into a story, which you can still listen to, and then we turned the story into an adventure, so she becomes from listener, she becomes participant. But the most beautiful thing is that Thalia, who's now 16, well by now she's like 23 I guess, at that moment is 60 years old. She has in her possession 10 coins of happiness. And a job to do. Because she has to hand them over to people whom she thinks could use a little more happiness. Saying that every now and then, you don't need a coin anymore, please pass them on. So there is actually 7 coins, because she still has 3 in possession. 7 of these coins going around the world, being passed hand to hand for everybody whom you wish a little more happiness. Now this is where you take your story and turn it back into reality and change behavior in reality. I think this is the progress, because we tend to create quite a lot of events, that events should use. They should address the attendees and change them from attendee, from listener, into participant, into someone who goes on to an adventure. I'm halfway in my talk. Is there any questions, like you want to talk about something, you want to dive into something? Because we can interact, we can actually ask questions. I may even respond. Any questions here? Curiosities? Yeah, go ahead. I have one here. Do you need one? Oh, yeah, well. Can you catch? This is a bit dangerous. I don't want to, like, hand out a code of happiness and then kill somebody. That might be quite the contrary. Promise me, if you don't need it anymore, whenever you see two sad eyes staring in your face, hand them this coin, because it beholds power. Okay, enjoy, enjoy. So, you can add this Stardust to every event. Can you scale this up to business events? Yes, you can. Do you fail? Yes, we fail a lot of times. So we try to add Stardust to a lot of events, but there's a harsh reality in the event industry, isn't there? So there are these harsh, like, event scripts. I guess everybody of you knows the standard event scripts. You go in, you have your coffee and your apple, welcome here, then you have two keynote speakers, then you have the breakout sessions, and then you get a bottle of water just before the traffic jam, you go home. So this is the sort of dark enemy we're fighting here. Do you recognize this? And do you want to change that? Yes? Because there's some people go yes, and some people like, you kind of sort of scare me. Okay, so you don't have to, but here's a world of opportunity and a world to be gained. Because actually, we tend to say, I always point out to Kim, we're a small company, we're 3 persons, but we say, we're on a mission. Because you are giving us the most precious thing you have, time and attention. And I think it's just morally wrong to waste your time. It's morally wrong to ask you to sit down and just read up the slides that I'm showing on the screen. If there are slides that you can read, I might as well send them to you. It will save you time, and you can spend the time with your kids, families, and with loved ones. So we have a moral obligation to turn events into adventures. That's what we have to do. And how? Well, I'll give you one example. Glasses. I'll give you 2 examples, actually. So, I totally forgot my job. That's me. Well, I guess I'm alright now. And otherwise you just go like this and run off. So, I was on an adventure once in the city of London, at night. Small adventure, city of London. And we had to enter this forest. In the center of the city there's a forest. And we were with a group of people. It was pitch dark and we had to enter the forest. There were trees all around. But then one of the persons in our group was grabbed by one of those trees. Which, of course, was an actor in the suit of a tree. Now the fun thing is, from that moment on, every tree becomes a threat. So you only need one actor to grasp onto one person for the entire group to experience an adventure the rest of the night. And this is a system that you can use over and over again. So this one was a big business event in Amsterdam, Utrecht actually, where something strange happened. This was quite fast, I know. Did you get the story there? Yeah, no, probably not, because I had to look it over and over again. So what happened there is we created this old wooden phone booth. And when people went to the event, they thought, okay, so I'm at the event now, I'll probably go into this big audience and then listen to the keynote speakers. But this phone booth was ringing all the time. Upon waiting before entering the grand hall, this phone booth was ringing. And the curious ones were the ones who opened up the phone, and who picked up the phone. And upon picking up the phone, they would hear this voice, listen, you picked up the phone. You're probably a lot more curious than the rest out there. Just look around, nobody else picked up the phone. It's you, and that has to be rewarded. So I want to meet you during lunch. At 12 o'clock, be here at the phone booth. Just pick out your ticket and be here. So 50 people amongst the 1,000 that visited got a personal invitation to be at the phone booth during lunch. Now you know one of the most precious things of every event is how much an audience can mean for each other as long as they connect. So the real goal of an event is over there, not over here. But you have to connect them. Now what would happen if you would invite these people to join at small tables? One-on-one, with one person whom you don't know, but who you can get to know on a deeper, much deeper, what we tend to call hard level. So what you saw was two waiters, and you could go backstage, and you were amongst the people who answered the phone. You could go backstage. The waiter would ask, do you two know each other? Yes, we do. Okay, split up. You have to come in with somebody you don't know. And then there would be this small table, and you would sit in front of a person that you don't know. And on the table would be a menu. We all recognize this shape, don't we? From the restaurants. Do we? Yeah. Okay. Well, you can, of course, you can also not put food on it, but questions. And then the menu changes into something you can interact with. So these are questions about personal connection, like questions like, for instance, what would constitute a perfect day for you? What's your most treasured memory? What's the dream that you've been dreaming of for a long time but still didn't start to achieve? And I promise you, if you're able to facilitate the communication on this level, you'll get different connections. And then the other one would be what we call the value of asking. If you want to be of meaning for someone else, the best thing you can do is find out what's on their wish list. Because if you know what's on somebody else's wish list, you can give them something that they really dream of and they really long for. Now the fun thing is that we hardly ever share our wish list, because it's just not done. Well, if you don't share your wish list, how can you allow for other people to be of value for you? Because they don't know what they want to give you. So maybe it might be wise to start sharing your wish list on every event, so people can be of value for you. So this was just a small way to create interaction and more meaningful experience on an event. I'll give you one last example of how you can scale this up a little bit. There's a small movie first. I hope it's going to play.
Darwin presents purpose-driven leadership.
Eventually, prophecy came true. How do you turn a business event into an adventure? How do you get people to look beyond what meets the eye? And have the courage to dive into the unknown? In 2019, author and thought leader Simon Sinek gave a sold-out seminar in Amsterdam on purpose-driven leadership. Experienced design companies Sherlocked and The Lege Land created a custom secret treasure hunt hidden in plain sight. After the main event with an audience of over 1,000 people, Simon held a book signing session with a limited number of only 100 tickets. Some of those golden tickets were distributed at random, but some of them were earned. The cryptic coin leads to a mysterious treasure map that lures participants into 3 secret challenges, not only to find one of the golden tickets, but perhaps more importantly, dive a little deeper into themselves.
So what happened here was Simon Sinek was coming to the Netherlands, Take Productions organized it, 1,000 people joining a venue, all coming to see and hear Simon Sinek and a couple of other keynote speakers. Now, Simon Sinek, as most of you know, is all about why, how, and what. Now, the why thing we tend to skip a little bit, and we tend to talk about how and what. So the question was, Nils and team, can you create an experience that urges people to dive into their why, their inner drives? So when the people arrived at the venue, which they paid quite a lot of money to be there, you could, of course, give your coat to the wardrobe. You wouldn't have to pay to leave your coat in the wardrobe at that kind of event. But still, some people got some change back for their coat. So you'd hand over your coat, and the people would say, well, here's your change, 50 cents, but you didn't even pay. But on one side of the coin, if my sheets keep moving, we engraved a special signal. And upon entering the venue, you would, you know those walls where you can get food out of if you throw in a coin and then you get food? Well, there's a wall like that in that venue. And they would find the same sign on the walls over there, this sign. So the smart guys thought, well, what happens if I put my coin into that hole? And upon opening it, they would find a treasure map of the building. And they would be invited to dive into 3 different experiences, discovering their own inner drives. So let me give you a couple of examples. This is the map. And then the first thing is that they would be able to enter this bar. And there was this mysterious, like sort of Captain Sparrow kind of type, and he would talk to you. And then he would think, okay, after having talked to you, maybe you need a little more courage, a little more decisiveness, a little more love. So in these bottles, he would pour you decisiveness, courage, compassion. Just to mention to you, on all these ideas is what we call copyleft. You may copy them. Go ahead, please do, because this adds magic to your event. So what would happen if people wouldn't pour you a drink, but they would pour you love, connection, or whatever? So and then you would get your drink, and then you'd be on the next mission. And the next mission would be to just take a little distance from yourself. What would happen if you would go up high and just look from a broader perspective to your own drives? So people could enter this forklift, and they would raise above the audience during lunchtime, and on top of every decoration, they would find beautiful messages addressed them and questions that addressed them to think about why they came to this venue, why they want to discover their own drives, etc. And they could write those answers down. Then they would go down and there would be a next mission, because if you've been high up, of course, you need to go deep down into the dark valleys of your own soul. So they were placed on skateboards, and on their backs they ran under the main stage with a black light on their helmets. So they were in the dark caves of their own soul. And with that black light on their helmet, they would find texts inscribed on the bottom of the stage, posing them questions about why are you here and how comes all of a sudden you feel free to rise on the stage, etc., etc. If they had been through these 3 challenges, they would be allowed to go to the reception. And at the reception they would get a t-shirt, you know the crew t-shirts, which are always black with white letters, that's how we recognize a crew t-shirt. And this crew t-shirt would grant them access to the backstage area. So all of a sudden, from being a spectator, you would be crew, and you would be granted access to the backstage area. Now the backstage area we painted pitch black, which is a very dumb thing to do, because you have to paint it white again after the event, which is a very hard thing to do. So don't copy this idea, but you learn by doing, don't you? So it was pitch black, you couldn't see anything. But upon entering that backstage area, they were posed one question. After having discovered your inner drive, knowing that you could contribute to a better world, what would you do? Please write it down on the wall. And they had these black light pencils, and it was pitch black, so you could write it down and nobody would be able to read it. So you would write it down in all privacy. But then at the end of the day, we could turn on, with this audience, the black light. And then you'd see the most beautiful, most heartfelt, most genuine messages I've ever seen, for about 100 meters long, from that specific audience. And that's how you can delve up somebody's inner drive. That's the way to do it. Then they would end up with this personal meet and greet with Simon Sinek, because they all want to go on the photo together, and this would be their experience. But the fun thing is, loads of them still have this coin, and they use it as remembrance to that event. So what happens here is, your event is taking longer than the actual end of the event. So you kind of smear it out into reality. Just imagine what would happen if you could smear it out into reality. Just to sum it up, so what happens here if you add experience to events, there's a couple of things that happen. First of all, you have to have a very clear goal setting. So either be it an unforgettable birthday, or be it diving into your inner why. The next step is to create a story. And a story is something different than sharing information. A story is an adventure. And the last thing to do is to lure your guests, your participants, into that adventure. So they have to get out of their chairs and they have to dive into the adventure. Now I know that amongst you are people who already went on an adventure because you found something, and it's all around you for the coming 2 days, that will invite you to connect on a deeper, more personal level. I know, because we've handed it out and we've hidden those things all around you. So I invite you for the coming 2 days to just keep wondering, how can we add adventure to every moment that we experience here? Or in other words, how can we stop aiming for the head and start aiming for the heart? I wish you a beautiful experience over here. Thank you very much.
Mm.